Dark waves crashing in the distance. A plane disappears from radar. A ship sends one final radio message. This stretch of ocean has terrified sailors, pilots, and scientists alike. The Bermuda Triangle. A place where compasses fail, navigation systems go blind, and entire aircraft vanish without leaving a single piece of wreckage. More than 1,000 ships and planes have disappeared here, some in storms, some in perfect weather, without any explanation at all. But now scientists are beginning to uncover something buried beneath these waters, something powerful, something dangerous, something that may finally explain why the Bermuda Triangle has swallowed so many lives. And what they're finding is more disturbing than anyone expected.
For decades, the Bermuda Triangle has captured imaginations with stories of vanishing planes and ships, but now a new scientific theory claims to have finally answered.
Low rumbling waves, wind howling across an endless horizon, a cargo ship cuts slowly through the Atlantic, its radar blinking, its crew calm, everything normal. Until suddenly, the instruments begin to flicker. Compass spinning, radio dead. The captain calls out to the bridge. No answer, only the sound of metal creaking and the ocean growing louder. The ship vanishes. No distress signal, just empty water. This stretch of ocean has swallowed ships, planes, and people as if the sea itself was hiding something. And now scientists may finally be starting to uncover what lies beneath. For nearly a century, the Bermuda Triangle has been dismissed as myth, a sailor's superstition, a conspiracy theorist's fantasy. Scientists studying the deep Atlantic began noticing something strange, something buried beneath the ocean floor, something powerful enough to explain why compasses fail, why aircraft disappear, and why entire ships seem to vanish without a trace. And if what they're finding is true, then the Bermuda Triangle isn't just dangerous, it may be something far more disturbing, because the truth might mean this region of ocean is not behaving like the rest of the planet. Rewind to the beginning. Long before satellites, long before sonar, long before modern navigation. There were stories, old sailor stories. Whispers passed between captains navigating the Atlantic, stories of ships that sailed into calm water and never came out. The region, now known as the Bermuda Triangle, forms a vast stretch of ocean between 3 points, Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. Together they create a triangle covering more than 500,000 square miles of open ocean. To sailors in the early 1900s, it was simply another shipping route, but occasionally something strange would happen. Ships would report bizarre compass behavior, navigation instruments malfunctioning, sudden fog appearing out of nowhere. At first, people assumed the same thing they always assume when ships vanish at sea: storms, human error, pirates. But over time, the disappearances began to pile up, and some of them made absolutely no sense. Slow descent. One of the earliest mysteries happened in 1918. A massive U.S. Navy cargo ship known as the USS Cyclops, over 540 feet long, carrying 309 crew members, and a full load of manganese ore. The ship left Barbados heading toward Baltimore. The weather was calm, the ocean steady. There were no distress signals, no emergency transmissions, nothing unusual, until suddenly the ship disappeared. 309 people gone. No wreckage ever found. Nothing. To this day, the USS Cyclops remains the single largest loss of life in U.S. Navy history not related to combat, and no one has ever explained what happened. But the real mystery was only beginning. Over the next several decades, ships continued disappearing inside the same region of ocean, sometimes in storms, sometimes in perfect weather. But the strangest disappearances weren't ships, they were airplanes. December 5th, 5 U.S. Navy training aircraft take off from Florida. A routine mission, 5 planes, 14 pilots. The squadron was known as Flight 19. Their task was simple: fly east, drop practice bombs, turn north, then return to base. A training exercise pilots completed hundreds of times. But this time, something went wrong. Low mechanical sonar pings echo through the darkness. For most of human history, the ocean floor beneath the Bermuda Triangle remained completely invisible. Ships passed above it. Aircraft crossed over it. But no one truly knew what existed beneath those waters until recently, because modern deep-sea mapping technology has finally allowed scientists to scan the seabed in extraordinary detail. And what they discovered was far more complex than anyone expected. The ocean floor beneath the triangle is not flat. It is a chaotic landscape. Gigantic ridges, deep trenches, collapsed cave systems, ancient landslide scars, entire mountains buried beneath miles of water. And between these formations, massive deposits of frozen methane known as methane hydrates. These hydrates form when methane gas becomes trapped in ice-like crystals beneath the seabed. For thousands of years, they remain stable, but under the right conditions, they can erupt. When methane suddenly escapes from the ocean floor, it rises through the water column as enormous bubbles. And these bubbles do something extremely dangerous. They change the density of the surrounding water, meaning the water suddenly becomes incapable of supporting a ship's weight. For a vessel sailing above the eruption, the result would be catastrophic. The ship wouldn't simply sink, it would drop instantly, like a stone falling through air. No time for distress calls, no time for lifeboats, just a sudden plunge into darkness. Scientists have recreated this phenomenon in laboratory simulations, and the results were terrifying. In controlled experiments, scale model ships placed above methane bubble plumes sank almost immediately, exactly the way some Bermuda Triangle disappearances have been described. But methane eruptions may explain something even stranger, because when large quantities of methane gas reach the surface, they can escape into the atmosphere, creating invisible clouds capable of interfering with aircraft engines, or displacing oxygen, or distorting radar signals, meaning an aircraft flying through such a plume could suddenly lose engine power, lose navigation, lose control, and fall. But methane eruptions alone still cannot explain every disappearance, which brings scientists back to the most mysterious force in the region, the magnetic dead zones. Earth's magnetic field protects our planet. It guides compasses. It shields us from solar radiation. It surrounds the globe like an invisible shield. But this magnetic field is not perfectly stable, and in certain regions of the world, it behaves strangely. The Bermuda Triangle appears to be one of those places. Researchers studying geomagnetic maps of the Atlantic discovered something unusual. Small zones inside the triangle where the magnetic field weakens. Not dramatically, but enough to interfere with sensitive instruments. Inside these zones, compasses can drift. Navigation systems can miscalculate positions. Even modern aircraft autopilot systems can become confused. But there is another possibility scientists are now exploring. Because beneath the Atlantic crust, the Earth's mantle is constantly shifting, sometimes creating powerful magnetic disturbances as molten rock moves beneath the surface. If such disturbances occur beneath the triangle, they could temporarily distort magnetic fields across large areas, meaning pilots and sailors might suddenly find their navigation systems unreliable. And when you are surrounded by thousands of miles of open ocean, a navigation error of just a few degrees can mean the difference between arriving safely and disappearing forever. The mystery of the missing wreckage. One of the most disturbing patterns in Bermuda Triangle disappearances is the absence of debris. When ships sink in most parts of the world, wreckage eventually surfaces. Floating cargo, wood fragments, oil slicks. But in many triangle incidents, nothing appears, nothing at all. Why? Oceanographers believe the answer may lie in the Gulf Stream. This powerful current flows directly through the region, moving at speeds of up to 4 knots. That may not sound fast, but over time it can carry debris hundreds of miles away from the site of a disaster, meaning wreckage could be scattered across vast areas of ocean. Impossible to locate, impossible to trace back to its origin. But there is another possibility, and it is far more unsettling, because the deep trenches beneath the triangle descend nearly 20,000 feet in some areas. If ships or aircraft sink into those depths, recovery becomes nearly impossible. Pressure alone would crush most structures, turning wreckage into twisted metal fragment